everyone, I hope so everyone's doing fine. So the topic which I am trying to cover today is classification of synovial joint. Now synovial joint we all know is the joint जिसमें free movement is possible. Now before we get into the classification, we first should be able to understand what are the types of synovial joint. So I have a list written over here. We have pivot, saddle, plane, condyle, ball and socket, hinge and ellipsoid. The first one we are going to cover is plane joint. तो हम इस लिस्ट के हिसाब से नहीं चल रहे हैं, but this is how we are going to deal with classification of synovial joint. सबसे पहले आता है टाइप. तो प्लेन आर्टिकुलेटिंग सरफेस अगर हम देखें कि प्लेन जॉइंट के जो बोन्स होते हैं उनका जो आर्टिकुलेटिंग सरफेस होगा, मतलब कि दो बोन्स जहाँ पे मिल रहे होंगे, दिस इज सपोज दिस इज बोन 1 एंड दिस इज बोन 2. तो इनका किस तरीके से ये आर्टिकुलेट कर रहे हैं, तो दैट इज़ ऑलमोस्ट फ्लैट इन प्लेन synovial joint. Coming to movement, it has minimal sliding movement. Minimal sliding D है ये, minimal sliding movement. Examples इसके हैं intercarpals, intermetatarsals, metacarpals, intertarsals, intermetatarsals, acromioclavicular. सो ये सारे जो एग्जाम्पल्स हैं इसमें से आप अपने हिसाब से जो भी आपको सबसे ज़्यादा इजी लगे आप उसको याद कर सकते हो. अकॉर्डिंग टू मी you can learn intercarpals, intermetacarpals, intertarsals, intermetatarsals, acromioclavicular joint, and over here we have tarsometatarsals, carpometacarpals except the first one. So you have one from the upper limb, one for the lower limb. Accordingly you will have, right? And I hope everyone knows what this acromioclavicular joint is. So this over here, this is the acromioclavicular joint. It is a plain variety of synovial joint. This is between the clavicle, this is the clavicle, this is the sternum, and the acromion process of the scapula. This is scapula, this is humerus. So acromioclavicular joint is a plain joint. Coming to the second one, which is the hinge joint, it is pulley shaped. So the two bones, articulating type is pulley shaped. Now the movements in hinge joint are uniaxial flexion and extension. Uniaxial, one in one axis. So we have elbow joint, ankle joint, and interphalangeal joints. Interphalangeal joints in between the phalanges. So we have, right, it can move in only in one axis. Next one is pivot. Elbow joint, if you want to see. So this is the elbow joint, as you can see over here. It can do flexion and extension in one uniaxial, right? Next we have pivot variety of saddle joint. So in this central pivot surrounded by osteoligamentous ring or ligament or ring, whatever you want, ligamentous ring. The movements are uniaxial rotation. The examples are superior and inferior radio-ulnar joint. Do you know what superior and inferior radio-ulnar joint is? This over here. This is superior radio-ulnar joint. This is inferior radio-ulnar joint. And this over here, my dear friends, this is the middle radio-ulnar joint. This is not a synovial joint. It is a fibrous joint. I have already posted one video on this. Uploaded a video on this. So elbow, ankle, over here, superior and inferior radio-ulnar joint, medial atlantoaxial joint. These are the three examples. Next we have condylar. So the articulating surface is two convex condyles articulate with concave flat surface on the other side. Two convex condyles articulate with concave or flat surface on the other side. Now the movements possible is biaxial. Bi means two, but predominantly one axial movement, flexion and extension with limited rotation. So इसमें possible है biaxial, मगर predominantly इसमें one axis ही होता है. किसके बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं? Condylar of synovial. और जो होता है उसमें वो है flexion and extension with limited rotation. Examples है इसके knee joint, temporomandibular joint, TMJ जिसे हम कहते हैं. The next we have is ellipsoid. Ellipsoid is the articulating surface is oval, convex surface fitting into an elliptical concavity. इसके movements जो हैं that is biaxial, flexion and extension, abduction and adduction and circumduction. तो basically इसमें सारे आपके आ जाएंगे. Circumduction means कि a lot of movements are possible. इसके एग्जाम्पल्स हैं रेडियोकार्पल, wrist joint, metacarpopharyngeal joints. So as we can see over here, ये हमारा wrist joint है और हम यहाँ पे मेटाकार्पोफेरेंजियल जॉइंट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं और रेडियोकार्पल जॉइंट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. नेक्स्ट इज सैडल. ईच आर्टिकुलर surface has a concave and convex region fitting the convex and concave region of the other surfaces. इसके movements हैं biaxial, mainly two axes, flexion and extension, abduction and adduction, and axial rotation, conjunct rotation. इसके examples हैं first carpometacarpal joint, calcaneocuboidal joint, incudomolecular joint, sternoclavicular joint. Sternum and the clavicle. It's a variety of saddle joint. The last one is ball and socket joint. Globular head fitting into a cup-shaped socket. Movement possible is multi-axial flexion and extension, abduction and adduction, circumduction and rotation. Shoulder, hip, talocalcaneus, calcaneoavicular joint. So this is basically in the ankle. Shoulder and hip are very common. If you write this in your answer, it will be, very attractive for the impressive actually for the teacher. So these are this is the whole classification of the synovial joint. I hope so I was able to explain myself properly. I know this video is not very good, but yes, I hope so I was able to spread some knowledge. Also, although I have already shared this diagram, but then also to understand synovial joint more properly, especially according to the articulating surface and all, this is a diagram. I've already shared a video including this diagram. So we'll start again once more. This is sternum, this is clavicle, this is our scapula. This whole thing is acromial process, glenohumeral, glenoid cavity and all, everything is over here. This is our humerus, this is our radius, this is our ulna, and this is our thumb actually, but it's not drawn properly, so don't get confused, and I'm really sorry for the diagram, I'm not very good in it. So if we'll talk accordingly to the joints first, so this is sternum, this is clavicle, sternal clavicular joint, acromion process and clavicle, acromioclavicular joint, shoulder joint or glenohumeral joint, humerus, elbow joint. Elbow joint has parts. So this is radio ulnar superior, radio ulnar inferior, and then this is middle radio ulnar joint. Then over here we have our carpals, metacarpals, phalangeal digits. So this is the wrist joint, radiocarpal joint, or wrist joint as we call it. Over here we have carpo metacarpal joints. Then we have metacarpo phalangeal joint, interphalangeal joints. Now coming to what type of synovial joint it is. Sternoclavicular is saddle joint, acromioclavicular is plain, glenohumeral or shoulder is ball and socket. Coming down, elbow joint, it is a pivot. The uh, you know sorry, I have missed something over here. Talking about elbow joint, so the hinge joint, it is hinge joint, this one. The superior radioulnar joint, this over here, is a pivot joint because one bone is stable and the other rotates. Then the the inferior radioulnar joint is also the same. This one, the middle radioulnar joint, is not a synovial joint, it is a fibrous joint, it is syndesmosis. Coming down, we have radiocarpal joint, wrist joint, this is ellipsoid. Then we have carpometacarpal joint, this is saddle. Coming down, we have metacarpophalangeal joints, this is ellipsoid again. And the last one is interphalangeal joint, which is hinge joint. If you want a picture of this, then you can take it by pausing the video. Also of this one and this one. I hope so. This video was informative for you. Thank you so much. If you want more information like this, please convey me through the chat box.